The early 20th century was a time of great change and uncertainty in Europe. The continent was a mosaic of cultures, languages, and political ambitions, each vying for dominance in an increasingly interconnected world. Nationalism was on the rise, with countries competing for power and influence. This fervent patriotism often manifested in grand parades and public displays of national pride, as citizens rallied behind their flags and leaders. Old empires like the Ottoman Empire were weakening, while new powers like Germany were growing stronger. The decline of these ancient regimes created power vacuums that ambitious nations were eager to fill. To protect themselves, European nations formed a complex network of alliances. Diplomats and leaders met in grand halls, signing treaties that they hoped would secure their nations' futures. These alliances were meant to deter aggression, but they also created a dangerous situation. The intricate web of agreements meant that a conflict involving one nation could quickly draw in others, escalating a small dispute into a full-scale war. If one country declared war, its allies would be obligated to join the fight. This mutual defense pact was intended as a deterrent, but it also meant that the mobilization of one army could trigger a domino effect across the continent. One group of allies was the Triple Alliance, formed by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These nations believed that their combined strength would protect them from external threats and secure their place in the global hierarchy. They saw themselves as needing protection from rivals. The fear of encirclement by hostile powers drove them to fortify their borders and prepare for the possibility of conflict. The other group was the Triple Entente, formed by France, Russia, and Great Britain. These nations were united by their mutual concern over the growing power of Germany and its allies. They feared the growing power of Germany. The rapid expansion of the German military and its aggressive foreign policy were seen as direct threats to their own security and interests. These alliances, while intended to maintain peace, created a climate of suspicion and hostility. Diplomatic negotiations were often tense, with each side wary of the other's intentions and capabilities. Europe was like a powder keg, waiting for a spark to ignite it. The buildup of military forces and the constant state of readiness only added to the sense of impending conflict. By 1914, tensions were running high. Protests and political gatherings became more frequent, as citizens voiced their concerns and demands in an increasingly volatile environment. There were disputes over colonies, trade, and military buildups. The competition for overseas territories and economic dominance further strained relations between the great powers. Nationalist movements were causing unrest in countries like Serbia, which sought independence from Austria-Hungary. The desire for self-determination and national sovereignty fueled tensions in the Balkans. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, would be that spark. His death in Sarajevo was the catalyst that set off a chain of events leading to war. The assassination, carried out by a Serbian nationalist, set off a chain reaction. The political ramifications were immediate and far-reaching, as Austria-Hungary sought to punish Serbia for the attack. Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding satisfaction for the assassination. The terms were harsh, designed to be unacceptable, and intended to provoke a confrontation. Serbia, supported by Russia, refused to meet all of the demands. The refusal was seen as a defiance, and Russia's support emboldened Serbia to stand its ground. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. The declaration marked the beginning of a conflict that would soon engulf the entire continent. And within days, the rest of Europe was at war. The alliances that were meant to protect now pulled nation after nation into the fray, leading to the outbreak of World War I. On a sunny morning in Sarajevo, Bosnia, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were touring the city. The couple was on a goodwill visit, hoping to strengthen the bonds between the diverse ethnic groups within the empire. Sarajevo, a city with a rich history and a melting pot of cultures, was bustling with excitement and anticipation for the royal visit. The date was June 28, 1914. This day would soon be etched into the annals of history as a turning point, a day that set the stage for a global conflict. The couple was unaware that a group of Serbian nationalists, members of a secret society called the Black Hand, were plotting to assassinate them. These nationalists were driven by a fervent desire for Serbian independence and saw the Archduke as a symbol of oppression. As the Archduke's motorcade drove through the city, one of the assassins, Gavrilo Princip, saw his opportunity. The motorcade had taken a wrong turn, and the car stalled right in front of Princip, presenting him with an unexpected chance to carry out his deadly mission. He stepped forward and fired 2 shots from a pistol. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen, and the second hit the Archduke in the neck. Both wounds proved to be fatal. The Archduke and his wife were both fatally wounded. Despite the efforts of their attendants and local doctors, they succumbed to their injuries within minutes. The assassination sent shockwaves through Europe. Newspapers across the continent blared the tragic news, and citizens were gripped by a mix of fear, anger, and uncertainty about what the future held. Austria-Hungary, outraged by the assassination of its heir apparent, blamed Serbia for harboring the assassins. The government saw this as an opportunity to assert its dominance in the Balkans and curb the rising tide of nationalism. Germany, Austria-Hungary's powerful ally, pledged its full support. Kaiser Wilhelm II assured Austria-Hungary that Germany would stand by its side no matter the consequences. Russia, a protector of Serbia, began mobilizing its troops. Tsar Nicholas II felt compelled to defend Serbia against what he perceived as Austro-Hungarian aggression. Diplomatic efforts to avert war failed. Despite numerous meetings and negotiations, the tensions between the great powers of Europe continued to escalate. Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia, demanding access to investigate the assassination and punish those responsible. The terms were harsh and designed to be unacceptable. Serbia agreed to some of the demands but refused others, fearing a violation of its sovereignty. The partial acceptance was not enough to satisfy Austria-Hungary. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. This declaration set off a chain reaction among the interconnected alliances in Europe. The system of alliances that had been designed to prevent war instead ensured that it would spread rapidly. Countries were bound by treaties to defend each other, turning a regional conflict into a global one. Germany, obligated by its treaty with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France. The German military mobilized quickly, preparing for a two-front war. Great Britain, bound to defend Belgium's neutrality after Germany invaded that country, declared war on Germany. The British Empire, with its vast resources, was now fully engaged in the conflict. Within days, the great powers of Europe were at war. What began as a localized assassination in Sarajevo had ignited the flames of World War I, a conflict that would reshape the world forever. What began as a European conflict soon engulfed much of the world. The British Empire, with colonies and dominions across the globe, brought its vast resources to bear. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India, and South Africa all sent troops to fight alongside Britain. Japan, allied with Britain, seized German colonies in the Pacific. The Ottoman Empire, hoping to regain lost territory, joined the Central Powers, adding another front to the war in the Middle East. The United States, initially neutral, entered the war in 1917 on the side of the Allies, angered by German submarine attacks on American ships and a desire to defend democracy. The war raged across continents and oceans. Battles were fought not only in Europe but also in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. The conflict became truly global, drawing in nations from every corner of the world. By the war's end, over 40 countries and colonies would be involved, mobilizing over 80 million soldiers. The Western Front, a 400-mile-long line of trenches stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, became a symbol of the war's brutality. This extensive network of trenches was a testament to the strategic stalemate that defined much of World War I. The landscape was scarred with deep, muddy ditches, barbed wire, and the remnants of fierce battles. The Western Front was not just a physical barrier but a psychological one, representing the futility and horror of war. Here, millions of soldiers faced each other in a deadly stalemate, locked in a war of attrition that would claim millions of lives. Day after day they endured relentless artillery bombardments and the ever-present threat of enemy snipers. The soldiers' lives were marked by long periods of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. The constant noise, the smell of death, and the sight of comrades falling beside them created an environment of unending dread. The trenches, muddy and infested with rats, offered little protection from the constant shelling and machine gun fire. These makeshift fortifications were often waterlogged, leading to trench foot and other debilitating conditions. The soldiers had to contend with lice, disease, and the omnipresent stench of decay. The trenches were a living nightmare, where the line between life and death was perilously thin. Soldiers lived in these squalid conditions for months at a time, enduring not only enemy attacks but also disease, hunger, and the psychological strain of constant fear. The daily routine was grueling, with soldiers having to repair trenches, stand guard, and prepare for the next assault. The lack of proper nutrition and medical care exacerbated their suffering. Many soldiers developed a 1,000-yard stare, a vacant look that spoke volumes about the horrors they had witnessed. Battles on the Western Front, such as the Battle of the Somme in 1916 and the Battle of Verdun in the same year, resulted in staggering casualties. These battles were characterized by their sheer scale and the immense loss of life. The Battle of the Somme, for instance, saw the first use of tanks in warfare, yet it did little to break the deadlock. The relentless artillery barrages turned the landscape into a moonscape of craters and shattered trees. At the Somme, the British Army suffered over 400,000 casualties in a single battle, gaining only a few miles of ground. The first day of the battle remains one of the bloodiest in British military history, with nearly 60,000 casualties. The human cost was immense, and the psychological impact on the soldiers who survived was profound. The battle exemplified the futility and human cost of trench warfare. Verdun, fought between the French and German armies, became a symbol of endurance and sacrifice, with over 700,000 casualties. The battle lasted for 10 months, making it one of the longest and costliest battles in history. The French rallying cry, "They shall not pass," epitomized the determination and resilience of the soldiers. Verdun became a national symbol of French tenacity and a testament to the horrors of war. The Western Front became a grinding meat grinder, consuming the lives of countless young men. The youth of an entire generation was sacrificed in the muddy fields of France and Belgium. The legacy of the Western Front is a somber reminder of the devastating human cost of war, a cost that continues to echo through history.